What's up, everybody? This is Sean McVeigh with Sean's Outdoor Adventures. Very special episode here today. I am at the factory where they build the Elite bows. I'm with Josh, who's the Vice President of Product Development, and he is going to help go over the new ritual with us. And that way I don't miss any details. So I appreciate your time, Josh. Why don't you take over and tell us a little bit about this nice new bow you got?
Okay. So the Ritual is our new flagship hunting bow for 2018. It's 33 1/4 inches axle to axle with a 6 3/4 inch brace height, shooting up to 335 feet per second. Really an awesome shooting bow you got to get in your hands.
I will be shooting it in a few minutes, so make sure you stay tuned for that.
Yeah, what we really tried to do here is bring some of the new technology, our new split limbs, double riser cages, our roller guard, and bring in the feel of a traditional Elite bow.
Good question. So you did go to split limb last year with the options, and so what was it something new with the cam, or what made you decide to go split limb as opposed to staying solid?
The reason for that was really to push ourselves a little bit further. We had been a solid limb company. Solid limbs are great, but we wanted to push just a little bit further, and then to do that we needed to go to a split limb platform to get the efficiency out of the limb system we were looking for.
So now, with the split limb, does that change any of the tuning approaches that you guys have that we need to? And I was thinking it would be nice to do a tuning video, guys. We'll do another. I'll put a link for that. We'll talk about some tuning, but I mean, so does it change the approach then with the split limb as opposed to the solid?
Slightly, but once the bows leave the factory, it should be the same to the consumer.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So what's the gain that you see then with the split limb at this point in time?
The split limb, you can generally build a little bit more efficient of a system. With a solid limb, you're flexing over a much narrower area, which there's nothing wrong with that, but when we wanted to take the bows up a notch, we needed to have more surface area to distribute the load of the flex of the limb.
Right.
And the split limb allows us to do that.
And now you have the cage exploded at the top and the bottom. Did you start that last year, or is that this year? Or
so the upper riser cage has been around for a while. That's something that Elite's been known for. The lower riser cage was new last year with the option series. We really like that. It helps stiffen the riser up. It deadens out some more noise and vibration. So we brought that into this new riser for this year.
Okay, and then with your roller system, anything new that we need to know about that? Or
if you're familiar with the LTR on the options, it's very similar. The length and geometry is adjusted for this bow, but it has the tunability built into it where you can adjust it left and right to put more or less preload on your cables, or you could use it just to tune for fletching clearance.
Okay, so when, as a consumer, you're watching right now, I bought an Elite, what do they need to know? Like, when are they going to want to move it in or out? Is it just for fletch clearance for these viewers, or when is that come into play?
Yep. Primarily, I think most consumers will use this for fletching clearance. But if you're really fine-tuning your bow, this isn't gonna. If your rest is set up way off, this isn't gonna account for like a gross left tear.
Right.
But if you are getting just a tick of a left tear, if you're bare shaft tuning and your arrow's hitting just to the right, you'd bump this in a little bit.
Right.
So take a little bit of preload off the cables, and vice versa for a right tear, which changes the attitude of the cam.
Yeah. All right, cool. Anything else you want to tell us about it before I start shooting here?
Really, we're really excited about this bow, and
I can tell.
One of the most exciting things for us is the efficiency.
Yeah. Well, I've heard you talk about efficiency.
Yeah.
What does that mean to us? We're out there shooting the bows, and you're saying this is an efficient bow. What does that mean to me?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways you can look at efficiency, but really it means it's a better machine. More energy's coming out for what you're putting in.
Right.
So the efficiency number is you draw it back, you put in 100 foot-pounds of energy.
Right.
How much is leaving as kinetic energy in the arrow? And we want to maximize that. That means our machine's working at the highest level it can.
Right.
But to a consumer, if this bow was 100% efficient, you wouldn't even hear it or feel it go off. It'd be completely dead and silent. So that's what we're striving for.
Right.
So the more efficient we get, the quieter, the less vibration, the less waste there is.
Right. That's excited. I am definitely looking forward to shooting that. So let me go ahead and do that now. Thanks for your help with that.
Yep.
Has a 10 out of 10, I'd say, solid back wall, which you can expect from a limb stop. And it comes off the back wall right where it's set. I give it 8 out of 10, which is my favorite, because I like to be able to let down, like especially in a hunting situation, but I do like it to stay on there really well. And so I think it's, for me, for my preference, it's right where I like it. Just sits right there, I like that. This is the Ritual at 60 pounds. So I just want to give an impression of shooting the Ritual. And I didn't notice this at first, it was just pointed out to me, there's no limb savers or anything like that. And there's really no vibration that, not a lot of vibration that you feel when the bow goes off. So it's nice to see that it is achieving that even without any additional dampeners. And I really like it. I've always enjoyed the draw cycle of an Elite. With the little rubberized sort of coating they have on their limb stops, it's not like it's not jolty when you get back there. So it's solid, but it's not jolty, which is nice. I have had people say they've used bows with limb stops that they just didn't like how it came into the limb stop. And really what I think it is sometimes you have to finesse it in there, let up a little bit on your draw so that it doesn't bang in there. But I feel like with the way this is designed, it's kind of nice. Even when I pulled a little hard, it wasn't real jerky when I hit that back wall, so that was nice. So I'm going to go over the data and see what the outcome is, and I'm going to share that with you right now. Okay, now I'm back at the home office. It's been a little over a week since I did the actual review. I've just been so busy. And tonight, if you're tuning into my YouTube channel tonight for the live feed, I'm announcing the winners of the tree stand, so make sure you check that out. But let's go over the data now. And one thing I want to throw in here before I go over the numbers is when I changed the poundage, so I shot the bow at 70 pounds, then I lowered it to 65 pounds, shot it again. And then in the process of doing that though, the limb bolts were the easiest limb bolts I have ever turned in my entire life. I mean, they just loosened up so easily. Some bows, you're really fighting to turn the limb bolts. So that's another thing I want to point out about the bow that I really liked and appreciated was how easy those limb bolts turn. And those of you who have ever tightened or loosened limb bolts know that sometimes it can be tough. So I want to look at the numbers now. We're going to go over the bow at 70 pounds first with the 350, 450, and 550 grain arrows and see what the numbers were. And then we dropped it to 65 pounds and I shot it with 325 grain arrow, 425 grain arrow, and 525 grain arrow. And then I had the opportunity of shooting a 60-pound limb bow that was there. So I shot that with a 300 grain arrow. They had two 300 grain arrows available. So I just shot it at that just to see what the numbers were. Oh, there's one other thing I want to go over too before I get into the data. And that is one thing I really learned is how delicate this whole process is. When I put the bow on the draw board and I watched the scale go up, there was a moment where it hit 72 for a split second and then dropped down to 70 and rode at 70 for a long way and then dropped off. And I was like, man, how do I handle that? Because there was a blip at the very peak part of the draw cycle. For a second it hit 72 and then it immediately dropped and ran at 70, and I wasn't sure how to handle that. So I said, well, let's just go off of the highest reading we hit. For that second, it was that 2 pound heavier. So we dropped the bow down 2 pounds, and so that when it hit that peak blip at the very top of the draw, where you hit the top of the draw curve there, there's just a little tiny doop on that bow, and so I had it then where it hit 70 and then it dropped down and was at 68 for riding across the peak of the draw and then dropped down. What that means is, and I wasn't sure the best way to do that.
is the speed readings could be a little lower, obviously, than if we took the main part of that draw curve at 70 pounds. Another thing too that I learned while I was there is they took my arrows and weighed them on their grain scale and said they were on, and then they shot it through their chronograph, and it came out a little different. I mean, they have a $6,000 chronograph. I have a $125 chronograph. So there are elements involved here, even if their scale was a little, reading slightly different to mine by a pound or two, that can alter the readings. And so I just wanted to carry that information over to you. It was eye-opening for me because, I do the best I can to get good data, but some variables, it's like, I wasn't sure like how to handle that way that it went in on the draw cycle. Like when I was cranking up the draw board, there was just that tiny second where it hit, 2 pounds heavier, but then the majority of it was right, riding at 2 pounds lower. So let's look at the data now. So when I put it, measured the brace height, it was 6 3/4 inches. The draw length on my draw board came in about a 1/4 inch longer than 30, so it was 30 1/4. The draw weight was, where we ended up riding it at, was 70.2 at that peak part, so basically 70. When we were at full draw, it was 11.2 pounds. That gave us an 84% let off on this particular bow, the way it was set up that day. So looking at the 350 grain arrows, we came in at 327 feet per second at 78 decibels. And I just want to go over here. The control bow in the control environment shot 308 feet per second and 78 decibels. On site that day, we came in at 307, which is just about the same. In the control area, there was 2 shots at 308 and 1 at 307. On that particular day, there was 2 shots at 307 and 1 at 308. So pretty much right there. And the decibel meter readings were pretty much right there as well. I mean, 0.5 is not much. So I was pretty satisfied that the control environment and this test site were basically the same. So we dropped down to the 450 grain arrow. It's 293. 550 grain arrows, 263. We look at the decibel meter readings, 450 grain arrow, and I missed a reading, so that threw that off. But down at the bottom, it's 78. So the bow pretty much stayed at 78 for the first and the last ones. So these vibration meter readings, you can take them with a grain of salt, really, because I think, as I've said in other videos, depending on how you're gripping the bow can really change it. If we go ahead and look now at the bow at 65 pounds, we actually had a little increase there in the speed. So whereas at the 70 pounds, 350 grain arrow, we had 327. At 65 pounds for the 325 grain arrow, we came in at 331. And then 292 and 264. For our decibel meter readings, it was 76.7, 75.4, and 73.6. I actually lost 2 of my readings there. Then at 60 pounds, I had the opportunity to, shoot this a couple times with the 60-pound arrows, and our speed came in at 328, and the actual decibel meter reading was 75.3. All right, folks, well, there you have it. That is the review on the Elite Ritual. And I do think it's a really nice bow, especially the coming into the back wall for a limb stop. The way they've designed that and that little padding system there, it's just nice and smooth landing. So out of the limb stop bows I've tested so far this year, it came in the nicest on that back wall. And I've always, ever since I first shot an Elite, thought they've produced a pretty nice bow. So I definitely encourage you to get out there and try all the bows, especially make sure you get this one in the mix. And if you haven't seen the tour of the Elite Factory video I did, I'll put a link for that in the description section. If you're not familiar with my map reading challenge and this whole thing about the prizes I'm giving away, I'll put a link for that as well, and you can check that out. And stay tuned, because in the next video, I'm going to be going over the Echelon and a couple of other Elite bows coming up after that. So stay tuned for that. Until then, take care, God bless, and hey, please like this, subscribe, and share this video with as many people as possible. God bless.